Okay, let us wrap up. Sorry about that. Let us wrap up Spanish and French exploration by talking about French explorers. So, part one, we talked about Spanish explorers. Now we are transitioning into French explorers. So, stories of the New World intrigued French rulers. Although they wanted a share of the American gold and silver, they were more interested in finding a westward route to Asia. So their main goal was to find a new trade route with Asia, and not um, and less about seeking American gold and silver. In 1524, the French king commissioned Italian explorer Giovanni da Verrazzano to search for a passageway through the New World. He spotted the coast of South Carolina and sailed north as Nova Scotia, but found no such water route or valuable treasure. A decade later, French navigator, some name, led the first European exploration into the Gulf of South Lawrence. During his second voyage in 1535, Carter traveled as far as present-day Montreal, wintering at the side of Quebec. The Huron Indians were friendly, but when disease broke out among them, Cartier isolated his men, who then developed scurvy. Later attempts in the 1540s by Cartier to establish a colony in North America failed, and France was soon engulfed in a religious civil war that pitted Catholics against Huguenots, as French Protestants called them. So a religious civil war was gearing up in France with, as uh, this exploration goes on. Faced with severe persecution, the religion moved to the New World and established villages in South Carolina and Florida. In the 1560s, the French settlers built a fort and colony on the St. Johns River in Florida. The presence of the fort threatened Spain's search for treasure, and the French Protestants were a dual affront to the Catholic nation. On August 28, 1565, the feast day of St. Augustine's, a Spanish army overpowered the Huguenots and renamed the town St. Augustine's. In 1603, King Henry V brought an end to the French wars of religion, and in 1608, Samuel de Champlain founded Quebec, France's first sustained settlement in the New World. The religion became known as New France, and the city was used as a base from which Champlain and other Frenchmen explored the area. Champlain used the friendships he forged with the Indians to start a profitable fur trading business. The French established a lucrative economic network, with the Huron and Algonquin Indians, which soon developed into a military alliance against the English settlers to the south. To take advantage of the popularity of fur, particularly beaver pelts, which were prominently displayed on hats, clothing, and accessories, the French government turned its attention to fur trading in the New World. Trappers covered vast territories from the Great Lakes and present-day, I'm not gonna pronounce that, to trails along the Arkansas and Missouri rivers and even into Texas. The fur trappers shipped so many pelts back to France that they nearly extinguished the beaver population in North America. So the French were fur trading much of North America, much of present-day Midwest South United States. French missionaries also played a role in the New World exploration. Catholic ministries, primarily Jesuits, ventured through remote areas of America to convert Indians to Christianity. Many tribes were wary of the Europeans and reluctantly allowed the missionaries, whom they called the Black Robes, into their villages. While some natives befriended the missionaries, many refused to convert to Christianity. So all three of them, the English, the French, and the Spanish, all had a goal, whether it was the top goal or not as important goal, depends on the country, but they all had a goal of promoting Christianity. Nevertheless, the first European contact many of the Indians experienced was with Catholic missionaries. The fur traders generally followed, and they frequently cemented their ties with the Indians by marrying into the tribes. So that's the key part. They married into these tribes to further promote this idea of Christianity. What this outline doesn't mention when it comes to French explorers was the French actually settled New Orleans. New Orleans is French. That's why we have parishes. That's why we have neutral grounds. That's why a lot of New Orleans history is directed by the French, because the French colonized New Orleans. Iberville and Bienville. If you recognize those street names were named after the people who settled New Orleans, the French. Hold on, guys. Okay, let's wrap everything up in a nice tight bow and talk about mission system. As the Spanish Empire spread over the southern portion of the present-day United States, the mission system developed to facilitate colonial expansion and to pacify the Indians. Catholic priests and friars ventured into remote areas to build missions where they worked side by side with the Indians, planting crops, hunting game, and preaching Christianity. The missionaries also taught the Indians about Spanish culture, including language, arts, crafts, and politics. Each mission typically included a chapel for religious services, housing for the Indians, missionaries, and guests, merchant shops, and storage buildings. Protective walls were constructed around the premises to guard against attacks. Outside the walls, the mission owned thousands of acres of land for farming or pasturing heads of cattle and sheep. The mission system also included a fort to protect those associated with the mission from hostile Indians or European rivals. Soldiers stationed at these forts recovered runaways, served as a policing force within the community, and taught the resident Indians a variety of military skills. After 5 or 10 years, the mission land typically was given to the converted Indians, and the mission chapel became the parish church. The Indians were given full Spanish citizenship, including the right to pay taxes. The sizable mission system also helped the Spanish protect their empire. Once the Indians were Christianized and accepted into Spanish culture, they were trained in European warfare. The network of missions allowed the Spanish to quickly extend their presence into the New World. As the mission system grew, the Spanish priests sought more control over the Indians and their culture. The missionaries destroyed objects deemed sacred by the Indians and suppressed their ancient spiritual rituals and ceremonial devices. After several decades in the mission system, many Indians resented the treatment they received by the Spanish missionaries and soldiers and revolted. So Spain used the mission to torturize the Indian cultures in the Indian traditions and their habits, which many Indians did not like. They did not like these acts done by Spanish, so they revolted. In 1680, a native leader named Pope organized a massive rebellion that included more than 17,000 Indians from many villages across hundreds of miles. The Indians drove the Spanish out of New Mexico, killing missionaries, burning churches, and destroying relics of Christianity. It took the Spanish military 14 years to re-establish control over the region. Except for a few sporadic Indian raids, the mission system continued to grow and prosper throughout Florida, Texas, and California. If you guys ever go to California, not during COVID season, but they do have, there's still missions here. There's still missions. There's like 30 missions still around in California, not operating as missions, but so you can tour them, and I encourage you to do so. I've been to the San Jose mission where I'm from. It's pretty cool history and all that. So that's a wrap on Spanish and French exploration. I don't know what's next because that's in my file system, traveling file system. So I'll see you guys in the next review video.